Welcome to the Real Mama Pod.
I'm your host, Devin.
And I'm your host, Kendra.
We are real moms.
Sharing real experiences. The things people don't tell you.
Hey, mama, hey. If this is your first time listening, I'm your host, Devin.
And I'm your host, Kendra. Welcome to the Real Mama Pod.
And who do we have today?
So we have Dr. Jennifer Morgan. First of all, we have been on this computer talking with Jennifer for about an hour before we even started recording.
The conversation was good. It should have been a podcast.
Right, it really should have. We should have hit record on both the Rodecaster and the computer. But Dr. Jennifer Morgan, she is such a light. I personally have enjoyed speaking with her, and I know Devin has as well. They have a lot in common, and particularly around their field. Dr. Morgan has a doctorate in school psychology, but she works in the clinical setting as a pediatric psychologist, or she specialized in that field. But Dr. Morgan's field stretches a little further than just pediatrics. She works with military families. She works with veterans. She works with children in all capacities. And she is just a woman of all trades. Like, I was reading her bio. I'm like, I can't read all this. Like, I gotta break this up. But essentially.
And she's an author.
She is. So I was going to get to that. She is an author, and we have one of her books. So, like, she is just a wife, a mom, military spouse. She is an amazing person. And like I said, we have spent a whole hour talking to her before we even hit record here. But she is a joy, and I'm looking forward to our Q&A session with Dr. Jennifer Morgan. So, welcome, Jennifer. She wants us to call her Jennifer, y'all. So, we're not going to call her Dr. Morgan. We're going to call her Jennifer.
Yes.
She's Dr. Morgan at work.
I'm not working.
But in this setting,
let's go with Jennifer.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
show.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor. I'm excited to be here. I really am.
We're so
it's
excited to
definitely an
have
honor.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
So we have a lot to talk about. So we're going to get right into it because we try to keep our episodes to about 45 minutes, but I just feel like we have so much to capture. So this may be a part 1 and part 2. We'll see.
Indeed.
So briefly tell us about your journey to motherhood.
So my journey started 5 years ago. Matter of fact, my son, he just had his birthday on this past Monday. So he's like officially a big kid. He's not my little toddler. So I'm adjusting already to that. But yeah, 5 years ago, I was actually in my last semester of graduate school. And at that time, I was also like planning a wedding, trying to prepare for graduation. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so much that I'm trying to balance. But, you know, ultimately things came together, and motherhood is one of, if not my proudest moments or roles, you know, that I've taken on, my husband and I both. You know, it's been a great experience, you know, being a mom, and yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Motherhood is fun.
Mhm.
It is.
It is.
A fun time. It's challenging.
It's a roller coaster,
It's
you
very
know.
rewarding. It
For
is a roller
sure.
coaster.
Yeah, because roller coasters are fun and exciting, but they also like,
But you got
What
a
did I just do?
in line, right?
Why?
Exactly.
Why did I get on this ride?
Your head swinging and hitting and jerking, then it's like, damn,
Yes.
like what?
Stomach
what did I do?
dropping,
Sure.
just all kind of stuff
Right, the
happening.
stomach drop.
It's a
Stomach
stomach
drop.
drop. It's definitely a stomach drop.
That is so true. Mhm.
So Jennifer, as part of your line of work, you work with parents, right? You do consulting to an extent of, you know, supporting them with their kids and how to deal with in certain things and how to raise a conscious child. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, and just give us a little bit more insight around
Yeah,
that
for
piece
sure.
of your
So
work.
I know even just from the beginning, whenever I made that decision to pursue a career in psychology, I knew that it was all about wanting to help children, help families. And the biggest things for me was making sure that I was in a setting where I was able to access all children, all families. You know, there are some kids or some parents who wish to receive support, you know, in the realm of mental health, but maybe they can't afford it, or they don't, you know, they maybe don't know where to start. And so my whole thing again, from the beginning was to be able to make myself accessible as well. So from working in schools, as well as working in not just a primary care setting, but a federally qualified health setting, which more so serves underprivileged families. So again, allowing access to everyone. So that was, of course, kind of priority. And then now, working there in that space, I definitely, again, work with parents. And at that time, or whenever I'm first meeting with families, I make it clear that, kids, they exist within systems. So yes, they can have their one-on-one therapy, and there are things that they can work on for themselves. But when we think about the optimal level of progress or success that we want them to reach, it's going to involve parents, because they exist within the system of parents, of teachers, wherever they are. So I definitely communicate to parents their role when it comes to how they can, again, support their child, make sure that they are connected during this process in therapy, as they're learning about themselves, learning about how to cope and deal with stress. Parents need to also be educated and aware of that. And so, if anything, I always approach my work with everyone in some way included, not just a child, but it takes a team effort in a way. So, parents, sometimes siblings need to come into the office as well, to just kind of create this safe kind of team working as a group to support, the particular child or patient, I guess, I'm working with. Um, so that is definitely, I guess, important, I guess, in my line of work in general.
Gotta scope it out.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
Yep,
Yeah.
everyone can get it. Let's go. Let's go.
So, back to this roller coaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you're a psychologist and you're a parent consultant and you're a parent yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you ever feel overwhelmed by parenthood or motherhood? And if
Mm-hmm.
so, what are those feelings and how do you navigate through that? How do you process your
Yeah.
feelings?
So I guess to answer your first question, yes, 100%. I feel overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed sometimes. I just think it doesn't matter what you do or how many kids you have, you're going to feel
Mm-hmm.
that pressure or just feel potentially overwhelmed because you just don't know what to expect. Because number one, every child is different. So you might have one child
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, I'm good when the second one comes, but you find out that second child personality, just everything in a way about them is different from the first. So you're steady learning. And so I think, again, for me, although I had already had the privilege of working with children, understanding children, it's just different whenever you have your own and you are a mom or you are a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess for me, again, right, I experienced feeling overwhelmed. And I think just overall, whenever I have those emotions, where I'm just like, I can't do this right now. If I just feel like it's too much, the
Mm-hmm.
first thing I definitely strive to do is just accept the fact that I'm overwhelmed. Like, I'm not going
Mm-hmm.
to try and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, you're tripping. You shouldn't be mad or you shouldn't be frustrated. No, parenthood is frustrating at times. It's a lot to
Yeah.
juggle. So one, just acknowledging that and allowing myself to feel what it is that I'm feeling. I also
Mm-hmm.
often try to give myself breaks, wherever I can. So even if it's a matter of,
Mm-hmm.
taking a drive on my own, trying to be intentional on how I'm using that time driving to work. It's like, okay, let me put on some music that I know that I can bop to that's enjoyable while I'm on my way to work. Being
Mm-hmm.
intentional and trying to use that time to maybe make
Mm-hmm.
it about me, as far as what feels good, what sounds good. Um, and, ultimately trying to just maybe even just do things that I enjoy when I can. Um,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's listening to music, reading a book, listening to podcasts, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to take that time to just help myself, whether it's de-escalate or just process what I'm feeling and being able to transition back into, okay, calm state. Let me jump back, into this um, with
Mm-hmm.
with my son.
That's
Yeah.
important. Like
Mhm.
that alone
Yeah.
time
Mhm.
is gold, and you
Yes.
don't realize. Like I know I took
Mm-hmm.
advantage of being by myself
Mhm.
before
Yeah.
Yeah.
husband, before a kid. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
you yearned right for this husband and child life, but
For
then when you
sure.
get it, it's like, damn, like I appreciate it and I love it.
Mhm.
And I just need a
Yeah.
second. Me and Devin were talking about this
Yeah.
earlier. We
Yeah.
just be by
Yes.
ourselves. Like wanted to tell everybody to leave
Yeah.
me
Leave me
alone.
alone.
Don't, and it's not that we love
Yeah.
you any less. You know, that doesn't mean that I don't
Yeah.
want you around me ever. It just means that I need a second to
Mhm.
Yeah.
myself. And when I say a second
Yes.
to
Don't
myself,
Right.
that
touch
means
me.
nobody is bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Right.
right. So I'm glad you brought that up because, again, in
Mhm.
our community as black women,
Yes.
we always have to hold this standard of
Right.
we
And
can
that's
take
okay.
it.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Mhm.
we're bricks and we can there's nothing that we can't like no. No, those days are long
Mm-hmm.
gone. I'm overwhelmed and I don't want nobody bothering
Right.
me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you mentioned
Yep.
that.
Me too. And to add to that, I literally had to set a boundary with my boys because they're
Mm.
very touchy feely. And yesterday I was
Mhm.
just
Mm-hmm.
overstimulated and overtouched. I had a
Yeah.
bad day at work and I kind of brought it home a little bit, not like
Mhm.
physically, but like mentally. It was still in my head and still bothering me. I just did not
Yeah.
want to be like, and it wasn't even like a hug kiss touch. It was more like I'm gonna punch you and jump on you and dig my nails into you and abuse you touch. And so I'm
Yes.
just like, I don't want that right now.
Yeah.
Please do
Yeah.
not touch me. And I set a
Mhm.
timer and I said, you cannot touch
Yes.
mommy for 5 minutes.
I love that. I
Okay?
love that.
You know, and right, like
That's good.
That
seriously.
timer need to
And
be
then
Mhm.
even
longer than
today,
that.
because my oldest, who is starting kindergarten as well, and is a 5-year old, he's
Oh.
at school with me this whole week because I work
Oh.
for the district where he goes to school. And
Mhm.
so he's at school with me this week. And so he's with me all day. So usually my break from my kids is at work. No,
Yeah.
I'm not getting that. So I'm just like, I'm going upstairs.
Yeah.
You're your father's child
Mhm.
for right now. And don't bother me for 5 minutes. And they still come
Yep.
Leave me
upstairs.
alone.
Yep. They'll
They
find you.
still come upstairs and find me. Hey, mommy, what you doing? Minding
Yep.
my
And love to
business.
get be bothered. Like Eli came and put his hands
Right.
on both of my breasts
Right.
today.
Just,
Mhm.
He just plastered them there. He said,
oh my
"Mommy, what is
gosh.
that?" I said, "Eli, those are my breasts.
Right.
They used to feed you when you were a baby."
Yes, we are in that
Yes.
stage too with both my boys touching my
Mhm.
body parts. And I'm like, I
Yep.
don't know. And I try to, Jared, don't, I mean, we hug and kiss in front of them, but as far as like
Mhm.
caressing each other, we don't do
Don't
that. So
even
I don't
do it.
know where they getting this
Or
rubbing
friend, they might
and touching and
you might
slapping.
think you out of sight, or Jared might think he out of sight. I'm just
Yep.
saying.
I really, yeah, I don't think we do it often enough for them to be like, they're just like
Yeah.
fascinated with my boobs and my butt. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, leave me
Remind
alone,
me. Remind
please.
me.
Yeah,
What's yours is theirs. It's how they still see it.
that's
You
how they
know.
see it.
Yeah. Or they play, I want some milk. I want some milk. Boy, if you don't get on my
Ain't no milk in here. It's all dried up and gone.
right, it is dried up. You're gonna get powdered sugar. How
He'll
about
probably
that?
say,
Milk.
"Okay."
Ain't no
Okay.
sugar. No sugar. Okay. Okay. So, I was about to call you Dr. Morgan. Jennifer. So along your line of work, you also do therapy, right? I mean, I guess that's that. I don't like to mix terms with if you say consultant and therapy. Those are two different things, right? But
Mhm.
within your line of work, you still do therapy in some way. So I know that in our community, I mean, therapy is becoming more accepting, right? But in
Mhm.
some
Yep.
areas of our community, it's still not. Like people still feel that something has to be wrong for you to go to therapy, and that's not
Mhm.
necessarily
Right.
true. So, from your
Mhm.
perspective, how important do you think it is for children to go to therapy, even if there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong,
Mhm.
or families
Yeah.
in general?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's really important, and it comes down to perspective, how it's being perceived. So mental health, when you think of mental illness or mental health, a lot of other people, they think, "Oh, you're crazy." They use word, "I'm not crazy."
Mhm.
I'm not in a crisis, and it is
Mhm.
usually at that time when people do seek mental health support or services when they're in a crisis, whenever there is a really big issue to some extent. That's, I will say, in general, where I do work, it's unfortunate that majority of the people, by the time they reach this step, they're in that severe type of category, meaning it didn't just start, it was a buildup. We kind of got to this point to where, okay, you know what? Now they're saying let's get some help. Whenever it really starts way before, or it can start way before it gets to that point. So when it comes to, again, therapy for children or families, I do think it's important to take more of a preventative approach, meaning you come in order to not so much work on a problem, but working on, let's say, just areas of improvement, or wanting to work on just areas in which you feel you can grow. It's not so much that you're doing parenting wrong at this time, but no one's perfect. There are some ways or some tools and skills that you can definitely gain, by just coming to therapy and just learning more, that you may not know. And the same thing for a child. There are some things, some experiences that they're just going to naturally have by being exposed to media, to being exposed to other kids at school. And they have to, let's say, maybe learn how to communicate, about certain things. And for some parents, they may or may not know the language or know how to break things down or explain. So bringing them in, again, for therapy or to a therapist, whether it's a psychologist or a social worker, whomever specializes with children, who can not only help teach that child, but also equip, parents to be able to continue the work at home. Again, not because it's a big problem, we're in a crisis, but we want to prevent that. And we want to just learn on, how to stay healthy, how to stay well, mental health wise. Yeah.
I love. Hey, mamas, have y'all ever gone through a friendship breakup? It stinks. It hurts. It
Does.
feels like you broke up with your man. The journey to healing after the end of a friendship can be so tough. But guess what? You don't have to figure it out alone.
That's right. So allow us to introduce you all to the Creative Healing Series. This series is a transformative virtual screening of the documentary Best Friends Not Forever.
Yo, that title says everything.
It
So join our
does.
girl, Shalise. She's a rattler
Hey,
and a
Rattler.
licensed professional counselor.
Yes, and she is with director of the documentary Diamond Williamson as they unpack this amazing series. Where's
Yes,
this
this series.
event? When is it, Evan?
Girl, it's virtual, so you don't have to
Oh,
worry about getting all dressed up and dolled up or anything like that. But it's Saturday, August 19th, 2023, for an
okay.
empowering experience to support you in finding your solace and healing through creative expression.
All right. So before we get into you getting into this event, again,
Yeah.
it's virtual, but there is still a fee. Okay. Take the first step toward healing, right? And rediscover yourself in your friendships. Use our code MAMAPOD, that's MAMAPOD, to receive up to 20% off on your ticket. If you are
Yes.
interested in attending this virtual event, you can go to www.theconsciousqueen.com, or you can visit Eventbrite and type in Best Friends Not Forever to secure your spot.
Yes. Tell her we sent you.
Hey.
That was good.
Yeah.
So you're talking about communication, right? So you have a 5-year-old and you probably feel me on this. Big
Mm.
emotions. Okay. I feel like I have all the tools to help my parents help their
Mm.
kids. When it comes to my kid, I don't know where those tools go,
Right.
but they not with me. They are not with me,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
So can we talk about what does big emotions
Mhm.
mean, right? And what are some best practices when navigating through that with our small children?
Yeah, man. Yeah, great question. Again, it's like when I'm at work, let me put the hat on. Mom, Dad, this is
Yep.
what you need to do. Let's try that. You don't need to do that. But then when I get home, kind of like who earlier we were just speaking about, I think it was you, Devin. You said I need 5 minutes because it's been a long work day. You want to maintain what you've been putting up all day, let's say like at work, but it gets real when you're at home, and you have another set of your own emotions that are being impacted when it's your own kid, that's maybe pushing your buttons or having big emotions themselves. So right, it can be a bit difficult, but ultimately when it comes to kids and again their big emotions, number one, I do believe that first as a parent you have to acknowledge that it's normal. Okay. Having
Mhm.
big emotions, expressing them in a big way. So one, I will say one thing that I often communicate to families, to parents, and kids as well, is that emotions are normal, and they're not always going to be
Mhm.
positive, good emotions. No, you're
Mhm.
human and you're going to feel sad. You're going to feel embarrassed. You're going to feel mad. These are all emotions that you're meant to have. You're going to feel anxious. Anxiety is a good thing.
Mhm.
A lot of people say, well, anxiety is bad. Well, no, it's actually meant to protect us, it's meant to help us.
Mhm.
And so ultimately, when these emotions, I guess you can say, reach a level of where it's maybe more so a reaction as far as like behavior that becomes more of a
Mhm.
concern as far as how they express that emotion. Again, I definitely try to communicate that one, even as a parent, whenever you see or hear the big emotion, um, although your alarm kind of goes off where you're just like, this is a big problem. I need to do something right now because this should not be happening. One, not panicking yourself, remaining calm yourself and just acknowledging that, you know what, my child is having some big emotions right now as far as how they're expressing them in a big way, how they're behaving, and just recognizing that, okay, it's okay for them to have the emotion, but first let me just check and see, of course, what it's about. And depending on, how
Mhm.
old the child is, as we know, the younger they are, the more they are going to tantrum or show emotions in a way
Mhm.
that can feel uncomfortable, whether it's because they're
Mhm.
hungry, whether it's because they're sick.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, my son last night we were at um, the Padres baseball game. First time going out
Mhm.
here in San Diego, and he wasn't himself. He was crying and kind of doing the tantrum thing, and it turns out that he wasn't
Mhm.
feeling well. He was sick, and so instead
Mhm.
of instantly feeling like you have to respond or react along with
Mhm.
them, whether it's
Mhm.
yelling or becoming upset, slowing down and first acknowledging, okay, is something actually wrong? Because that's how they
Mhm.
communicate if something is not right,
Mhm.
whether again, hungry, sick, um, tired, sleepy, and being able to resolve the issue based on what you can learn in that moment. Now, if it's a matter
Mhm.
of it's none of these things here where your needs they're met and you're just maybe let's say potentially doing it for attention, then of course there are other ways in
Mhm.
which you would approach trying to de-escalate or respond to that issue. But again, for yourself, you do want to remain calm, with big emotions, definitely
Mhm.
remaining calm. And then ultimately, depending on where you are, I know it can be uncomfortable if you're in
Mhm.
public, and let's say the next step would be to ignore it. Then you're thinking,
Mhm.
oh, shoot, people are judging or people are looking,
Mhm.
But at the same time, if you're giving attention to these big
Mhm.
emotions, um, you're actually reinforcing it to where it can happen again in the
Mhm.
future. So I
Mhm.
would definitely say, let's say, ignoring, if it's like more of an attention thing, would definitely be like a good way in responding until they can calm down.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say,
Mhm.
I guess, one other tip or way in which parents can respond when big emotions are being expressed um, is to not try and reason whenever these big
Mhm.
emotions again are being expressed. So a lot of times parents may try to talk them down, talk your kids down.
Mhm.
What do you need, or we're going to do this
Mhm.
first and then we're going to do that, and trying to converse with them when we already know
Mhm.
as adults, let's say when we're in our emotions and someone's trying to talk to us,
Mhm.
it's like, I don't want to reason right now. I'm actually frustrated. I don't want to
Mhm.
talk at all. And
Mhm.
kids can be the same way as far as, not wanting to hear what adults may have to say.
Right.
So trying to de-escalate by one, not even having to have trying to have conversation with them or trying to talk to them, but more so just trying to help calm them down. Sometimes, like I said, it may be ignoring. Sometimes it can just be, acknowledging, okay, I see that you're upset, but at the same time, we'll talk or you'll get what you need after you've calmed down. Um, so,
Mhm.
it kind of gets a little complex, but those are just, I guess, a couple ideas for parents. Yeah.
because we gain big emotions in those
Mhm.
moments too, right?
Very
It's
much.
like
Yeah.
we big emotion for big
Yes.
emotion.
Yes.
Right.
So
Very much. Very
it's
much.
hard. But I like how you broke that down, because there are layers to how to respond to this kid that's just
Mhm.
shit to cutting up, as
Mhm.
my mom would
Mhm.
say. It becomes a lot. So I know right now
Mhm.
we're both. Oh, go ahead,
I was
Devin.
gonna say, I think it
Yeah.
kind of depends on the personality of the parent too. Simply because I can ignore. And I tell my kids all the time, I'm a trained ignorer. That is one thing I
Mhm.
learned
Mm-hmm.
in school is how to ignore behavior. So
My husband is the same
yeah,
way. I'm not trained like
Not
that.
and
trained.
you, Jared, and you parent similar, and Jonathan and
Mhm.
I parent similar. So my husband is the first one, and he's very militant. So he's like, "Hey, you need to calm down. You need to do this. You need,
Okay.
like the demands and stuff." And I'm like, "Let them feel it and don't cry." And I'm like, "No, they should be able to
Right.
cry. Like,
Mhm.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand like." What they have to deal with growing up, but
Mhm. Mhm.
we should not put those demands on them right now. Like they're 3 and 5, and I understand what's up against them, but they are still boys. They are not
Correct.
men, and it's a
Right.
time and place for everything. And I'm
Mhm.
not trying to take that away from you, but at the
Mhm.
same time, like if they don't know how to
Mhm.
get through
Mm-hmm.
these emotions, how
Mhm.
can we expect them to effectively communicate? Because that's what I want them to do. And I also don't want them to be
Yeah.
confident. And I also want them to know
Correct.
like it's okay to
Mhm.
show emotions if you
Mhm.
want to. Because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a problem within society and men
Mhm.
not having to
Mhm.
be macho all the time. No, it's okay for you to cry.
Yeah.
I could probably count on my
Mm-hmm.
hand how many times I saw my
Yeah.
husband cry, and it was at a funeral. So it's just like,
Mhm.
and I'm like,
I've never seen Jonathan cry, and he's
Mm.
like you when it comes to certain
right.
things. Um, I don't mind the crying.
Mhm.
It's the
Oh, yeah.
whining
Now,
that bothers
whining
me.
does
Mhm.
I
grind my
don't.
Mhm.
I
gears.
do not like whining. So
Oh man. Yeah.
let's talk about it. Give me a hug, whatever you
Mhm.
need. But whining
Yeah.
is where my big emotions come in. I don't like whining. I don't,
Mhm.
and Eli's not a big crier. Like something has to really be wrong, and I think that's
Something.
why. Like
Yeah.
I don't mind the crying because
Mhm.
he doesn't
Yeah.
really cry much unless there's
Mhm.
something. So if you have any tips, Dr. Morgan, or excuse me, Jennifer. Well,
Mhm.
this is a Dr. Morgan question.
Mhm.
If you have
For
tips on
whining.
how to respond to whining, then I accept them because that is the one thing I even before I had kids, I don't like stop the whining. Like so
Honestly, every
go ahead.
I was gonna say every child is different because I'll also even say for myself, I'm still trying to figure it out half the time. Whenever my son,
Mhm.
he's the whiner,
Mhm.
like yours, Kendra. Like it's very rare for him to cry, but the
Mhm.
whining is, oh my gosh, it's
Mhm.
piercing, right?
Mhm.
And like I said, every child is different. I know, like for my son, he responds to the just you can just give them a look like when we're not doing this
Mhm.
right now. I'm need you to calm down as far as just like what it is you're asking for. Use your big boy voice. You don't have to whine. You don't have to cry about it. You have some kids that can respond to that well, but then you have other children think
Mhm.
they keep it going. They don't stop. And I know that another way that just on any given day, if I know that, let's say there is something that is coming up that is fun or that he maybe even just want to do, that he enjoys, a lot of times I'll say, well, do you want to have time, to play outside, with your basketball, or do you want me, um, when we get home, do you want to have
Mhm.
your favorite snack? Some parents may call it, well, I don't want to bribe, I want
Mhm.
to bribe my child with a reward on in order to get them to do something. There's a difference between bribe and
Mhm.
a reward, or not award, but reward. And so whenever a child does what it is that you have asked them to do or stop doing, they've pretty much
Mhm.
done the work in order to
Mhm.
earn something, such as, again, a favorite snack, or extra
Mhm.
time outside. Whereas if they receive
Mhm.
these things before they've
Mhm.
done their part, that's when it's more what we
Gotcha.
consider a bribe, when they get the reward before they've worked for it. So sometimes with the whining, it's like, okay, I know when we get home, you want to, maybe have time with your dinosaurs,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, something they really enjoy, to where it's like, okay, I
Yeah.
need you to stop whining if you want to, enjoy this or have that. So sometimes that, also helps, of course, if it's kind of like giving them the stare or telling them to stop
I give Eli the
doesn't work.
stare because
Yeah.
it really
This
bothers. I
the
give him the
stare
stare.
does not work for me. The stare doesn't work for me because I start
It doesn't work.
laughing, and because they start laughing, and then I start laughing, and then we're just laughing. So the stare does not work. Like, oh my
You gotta
gosh,
turn
Oh
your head because
no.
Eli done tried that. Like he'll look at me and then he'll start laughing. It'll be
yeah,
funny. It really be funny. But you gotta turn your head. You gotta
I
You can't
know
laugh.
turn
You
your
can't
the
head.
laugh.
stare does not work, or they'll do something really silly, and I'm just like, I'm done. Fine,
So
whatever.
right. For what? Why am I fussing? Because I'm
Oh my
laughing with
Right,
goodness.
him, right?
right.
Right. So why should they stop? It's like, what? No, I'm gonna keep going.
Our kids, we all now have older toddlers and early preschoolers now,
Mhm.
right? Or kindergartners, excuse me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as they get up in age, they get more
Mm.
disrespectful, right? Their
They try
mouths
you.
use their words.
Yeah.
And my husband asked him to do something. So he told him, I'm busy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he was busy. Use their words against you. It feels a little different. So I'm going to give you an example. My husband, the other day,
Uh-huh.
Eli was playing with, I don't know what. It was some toy, some truck, or I don't know. He was having a good old tea. I mean, he was, but that to us, that's like, whoa, you're being disrespectful. But at the same time, the boy was busy. He was playing with his toy.
Mhm.
So, my question to you is, like, how do we set these boundaries? Because we want them to use their words. Like, we are all raising our kids to show these emotions, to be vocal, to be confident
Mhm.
in how they're feeling and what they're doing. But how do you set
Mhm.
boundaries between I'm busy and I need you to get up and do what I asked you to do? Like, how do we navigate that? Because I
Mhm.
really want to know. Because I actually
Yes.
had to turn my head and laugh at that one. That
That's
was
a
funny
great question.
because he was busy. He really was.
Yeah. Right. It's the truth. Like I'm doing something. Honestly, for that one, that example, that I feel like that is more of the funnier, I guess, examples. Because when you said disrespect, at first I was thinking about, the like real big type of disrespectful
Mm-hmm.
experiences with a child that you can have, where it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa.
Mm-hmm.
But this one here would sound pretty innocent. He was being honest. I think when it comes to, let's say, like simple examples like yours, Kendra, one thing that I definitely recommend, or a couple of things I recommend to parents, is just being mindful of, one, how you say things, or how you give an instruction, and when you choose to give the instruction. So I give an example of both of those. So when it comes to how, so you probably, and when I say you, I'm not just speaking about you guys, just in general, all parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes we don't actually hear ourselves as far as how we may give an instruction. So, for example, you have many parents who may give an instruction, but they give it in question form. So, let's say, for example, with my son, I may say, "Don't you want to eat your broccoli?" No, no, I don't want, I don't want the broccoli. And then it's like, no, you better eat your broccoli, without even realizing that we
Mm-hmm.
actually gave them a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
being mindful, of course, one, how we're saying it. Are we giving it as a command, as a statement, as in like you have no choice? Or are we able to even recognize sometimes where we actually give them a choice to have an opinion, or to, say
Mm-hmm.
something that we may not necessarily be ready to hear, which is him maybe saying, no, I'm busy. So one, being mindful of, how we say it, of course, like our tone, and also, of course, when. So in this, again, example you gave, Kendra, one of the things that, let's say, the next time for your husband as well as for yourself, kind of learning that if your child is busy and they're busy doing something that they actually enjoy, the next time when an instruction is given, it may have to require you to first instruct him to look at you, or even to come to you, and then give that instruction to kind of break
Mm-hmm.
up that engagement
Mm-hmm.
and what he's doing, in order for him to do something
Mm-hmm.
else that he probably doesn't want to do. It's like, well, first let me get your full attention, and let me, like I said, whether have you
Mhm.
look at me in my face or even have you come to me so I can make sure you hear me and you know that what I'm saying right now, there's no choice. I'm telling you to do it right now. And it's just easier for them to transition, considering that you've even just separated them from that activity in that moment to transition elsewhere.
Mhm.
You know what's
So that's,
interesting?
I
Hmm.
would just say, just, I guess, a couple
Hmm.
tips as far as, okay, you got me this time, but next time, let me maybe just set it up a little differently to
Mhm.
have more success with it. You
Jennifer,
know?
Right.
is that my husband he sits along the same line of work as you and Devin. Own kids is
Okay.
different.
Mhm.
And then I think he told, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he may know this,
It's
right?
It's,
different.
yeah.
But it's just
Mm-hmm.
when
It's
we
different.
parent our old Eli to do something, and then Eli
Mm-hmm.
decided that he wanted to continue to play with his toys, and then he
Uh-huh.
was like, "I'm busy," which I mean he was, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
have to be mindful of that because when you share like get their full attention, I don't do that. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you need to get up and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think that may be a benefit, at least for me, to really get his full attention to ensure that he hears what I'm asking him to do and that he
Mm-hmm.
understands, and
Mhm.
hopefully we'll have perfect
Yeah.
execution of whatever I ask him to do.
Right.
But
See, I didn't see that as disrespect, friend. I really, and I do take up for Eli.
yes, it's
So,
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh,
but I didn't
no.
see that as disrespect. I saw that as just being honest and answering your question. Now, what I do see as disrespect is with my child does, particularly my oldest. Okay,
Okay.
because my no,
Mm-hmm.
it's no way you can defend this. I don't know how you're gonna defend this, because now we're talking about big emotions and saying things he does not mean in that
Mm-hmm.
moment, and then once we cool down, we kind of process and we talk about it, but we're really trying to get him to stop saying things that he doesn't mean because he says hurtful things.
Yeah.
So one example
Mm-hmm.
can be if he's upset and establish a boundary, because we're trying gentle parenting. It doesn't work every day. Some days I yell. I'm human, you know, but I try majority of the time. Like, I do wake up trying to be gentle. Do we end the day gentle? I don't know, but I do try. So, like I said, he'll say things he doesn't mean. So,
Mm-hmm.
example, if he's upset, we have to go to cool down. He'll say, "Mommy, I don't like you."
Oh.
And I think that's disrespectful.
Oh,
Or I don't want to be a part of
that
this family. And
hurts.
I'm just like,
he said
why
that.
are we, what
I
is,
don't want to be a part of this
yes,
family.
yes.
Oh.
I'm like, why the dramatics, son?
Mm.
Like, where? And then he has a younger sibling, and he feeds off, because when Jay acts out, because he's my chill one, when he acts out, it's just like, you're acting just like your brother. Like, stop. This is not even you, right? So he picks up these things, but it's just like, how do we get him to think
Mm-hmm.
about what he's saying before he actually
Mm-hmm.
says it? And it might come with maturity. I don't know, you
Yeah.
know?
That's probably how you really felt.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is, friend. He don't really know what that mean. He knows what it means, but he doesn't
Right.
know the depth
Yeah.
of it. Like in that
Mm-hmm.
moment, he did not want to be a part of that family because y'all pissed him
Right.
off.
You know
Don't
what?
do
That is a
it.
But 5 minutes
good,
No,
you
Devin.
later,
know
it's
what?
all
You just gave
disappeared.
me an
He is
idea.
hollering because
You don't want
Don't.
to
where's
be a
my
part of this
mommy,
family?
daddy, and
We're
brother?
going to disappear.
Okay.
So I think that will come
No.
with maturity.
No, do not. No, Devin.
Don't you do
We're
that?
going
Don't
to
y'all
pay hide and
disappear?
go
You're gonna have a
mommy,
whole nother
hide and go
Dr.
problem.
Morgan,
family. How
No,
about
intervene.
that?
it's gonna be an
Intervene. This is
entire
not a part of
bigger
therapy or
issue.
consultation, I'm sure.
Right. Separation anxiety. Okay. You're
Oh,
you're
mm,
you're playing with it.
with that.
um
Oh. And the thing is, Jennifer, she know better. She is not doing.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
yeah.
I would not
Yeah,
traumatize
I
him,
know.
but it's a
I
Oh
great
my
thought.
know.
It is a
gosh.
great
Think
thought.
Yeah.
you worried about him
But
touching
So,
I want to ask you though, Devin. So in that
yeah.
moment, whenever your boys or your oldest, he says things like that. I'm just curious.
hmm
How do you normally react, or you
So,
and your husband?
Right.
What's the
So
reaction?
the reactions are totally different. So I am calm, and so I make sure I'm calm, and I'm like, true, that really hurt mommy's feelings when you say that. I love you. Or
Yeah.
if he gets in trouble, nobody loves me.
Oh,
Nobody
yeah.
likes me. It's
Oh.
just like so dramatic.
That sounds like
It's just like
you know where he get that from,
Where?
Jennifer? His mama.
Oh,
I
He
am
get it
not
from
that
what
his
are we
dramatic.
mama.
modeling?
But no, because I don't say stuff like that.
As
But
but let's call your mama and
I
ask her at 5 year old.
probably
Oh
I probably did
no.
say that five. But so I would say, so if he
Oh
says nobody
gosh.
loves me, nobody likes me, and I'm like, Drew, that's not true. Your mom and dad really loves you, but we have to establish a boundary. You did not follow this rule or whatever the case may be. So now this is your consequence. You're not in
Mhm.
trouble. You just need time to yourself to cool down. You can go to your room, read a
Mhm.
book. You can do whatever it is you want to do for those 5 minutes, but we both need a break, and you can come back
Mhm.
and we're good to go. But you do have
Yeah.
to, there's consequences for your
Mhm.
actions. And
Yeah.
that's when we get the
Communication.
whole dramatic thing of going upstairs and he doesn't want to be a part of his family. We don't love
Oh.
him. Those type of things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I try to stay calm. My husband, on the other hand, don't you talk to your mama like that. And it's just like, that's not what you're supposed to
Mhm.
do. But I understand, like, he's trying to establish dominance and respect, and he's military
Mhm.
and all this stuff. And
And
I'm
that's
just
how he
like,
was raised too.
again,
Because we have to unparent the way we were
Yeah.
yes,
parented too.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Correct.
So,
Mhm. For
where you
sure.
get this stuff from, boy? Like, I don't understand why you talking to your mama like that. I would never talk to my mama like that. It's just like,
It's
Mm-hmm.
different.
that thing.
It's
Yeah.
different. And I guess even with that, I think you how you handle it, Devin, that's actually
Mhm.
that's great. I think that's good, honestly. And again, my reason for asking, okay, how do you guys usually respond?
Mhm.
Because if you can one just move past what was said and accept the
Yeah.
fact that okay, they're probably saying this in the moment because they're
Right.
emotional. This is
Right.
emotion. They don't actually hate us. They don't actually not want to be in the family. If parents can move past what's said, because kids
Yeah.
will say some really hurtful things
Mhm.
because they know is going to trigger, or they
Yeah.
know is
Trigger.
going to
Mhm.
upset the parent because they're
Mhm.
upset, so they
Yeah.
can be pretty desperate, and they're gonna, you know what,
Mhm.
I know my parents hate or don't like when I say this, but to let them know that I am like really upset with them right now, I'm just
Mhm.
gonna say the worst thing so they can
Mm-hmm.
hurt
Right.
too. Sometimes
Right.
that can kind of be the
Mm-hmm.
case.
Mhm.
But again, once parents can just accept that, you know what, they're being emotional. No,
Mhm.
I don't agree with what they're saying,
Mhm.
but ultimately, sometimes whenever a parent does react, they're actually
Mhm.
giving the child what they are
Yeah.
looking for in that moment, which
Right.
is a reaction. They want you to
Mhm.
potentially be upset too, or just know the extent to which
Mhm.
they're sad or that
Yeah.
they're
Right.
mad. And so again, I
Yeah.
think the way that you described your response, where you're like, you're a part of this family, but you did
Yeah.
do, A, B, and C. You're
Mhm.
communicating to
Yeah.
him and he's accepting of it. And then you say, let's take a break. All
Mhm.
those are definitely good steps, I think, that you
Mhm.
take. Whereas for your husband, like you said, for him, he first has to get
Yeah.
past that first, you don't talk to your mom like that, or,
Yeah. Mhm.
um, which I can, also understand. Dads, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is about, I want to feel respected, or you
Mhm.
need to show respect
Mhm.
always,
Which is true.
in certain ways. And I think,
Which is true.
Yeah.
hmm it's true. But I think it
But
also,
age
to me,
appropriateness,
Absolutely.
I think that's what my husband struggles with.
yeah.
Like,
And I
he's
mean,
not 13.
and that's what I
Sorry.
was about to say. I think number one, it's about just again expecting for kids to mess up, to not get
Mm-hmm.
it right,
Mhm.
to say
Mhm.
things. So, now if we're, I don't know, 16,
Mhm.
15, 16, and we're doing and
Mhm.
saying the same things that we said
Mhm.
when we were 5 and 6 or 7, you
Mhm.
know, that's when it was like, okay, did you
Mm-hmm.
learn any,
Right.
did we not teach you an alternative way to
Right.
communicate when you were 5 or 6? But they're still, especially young kids, they're in that learning phase where they're even learning which limits,
Yeah.
they can
Mhm.
push, like how they can push the buttons. And as a parent, you have to first just expect the
Mm-hmm.
unexpected
Right.
to an extent. Be prepared for that, and not see it as, oh my goodness, they're just going to be this disrespectful child
Mm-hmm.
forever.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, no, they're
Yeah.
not. It's good to teach, but that comes with time as far as them
Yeah.
getting better with those things and you communicating
My son
ultimately.
actually calls me
That was
out if
good.
I'm not.
That
Yeah.
was
Like,
good.
he'll say, "Mommy, you're not being
Hmm.
nice." And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
mm, maybe I'm not,
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually I'm rude. If I'm enforcing a rule, I'm rude. You're being rude. And
Mm,
I'm just like, again,
mhm.
teetering that line of being an advocate for yourself and freely expressing yourself and
Yeah.
being
right.
Yeah.
Like,
disrespectful.
which one
So
is it?
it's
Where
just
does it
like,
go? Does it
Mhm.
go in this
Yeah.
pile or that pile? Which one?
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that also I guess this will be the last thing I say to this topic.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
parent modeling is
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
Like we will say what we expect or want from our
Mm-hmm.
kids, but when we actually reflect and see, well, how are we expressing our anger?
Mm.
Sometimes it doesn't even have to be towards the child, but how am I
Mm-hmm.
expressing my anger to my partner, to my
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
spouse, to my friend when kids are watching?
Mm-hmm.
If they're saying, okay, mom or dad, I hear you whenever you
Mm-hmm.
say this is what I don't or should not do when I'm mad, but I also
Mm-hmm.
see you doing it. It can be
Yeah.
confusing when,
Mm-hmm.
it's not matching up. So always being mindful on what you're modeling, and this applies to almost everything. I say the
Yeah.
parenthood is such a strong link between parent modeling and child behavior,
Mm-hmm.
communication, just different things
Mm-hmm.
that you get from them. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
let me check myself too. If I want them to be respectful, let me also
Yeah.
demonstrate what respect looks like
Absolutely
or
agree.
sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
That
Um,
was a good one.
yeah.
That was good. That
Hmm.
was really good.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Thank
Yeah.
need
you for
to.
that quick therapy
I need
session.
a consultation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I'm here. I love it.
You're an author. Okay, you have what, two books now?
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Let's dive into that a little bit. One, two,
Hmm.
three. Self care is important to me. I love that. We actually have that book, and then Melody, the music queen. So let's talk about that.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it. It was, I will say, a pandemic project.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us maybe came out with some projects or, crafts or anything just creative in a creative way.
Podcast, maybe.
Podcasts, YouTube channels, doing all of that. That's when it started. I will say I've always wanted to write and become an author,
Mhm.
specifically something like with mental health. But with graduate school and jumping right into motherhood and working, there was just not a lot of time I felt to really fit that in and focus on it. So when everything slowed down, around the time of the pandemic, I was able to just start writing. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, again, my passion, of course, is mental health. Is also parenting, being a mom. Um, and like I said, or one of the first things I said at the beginning of our conversation was that I'm all about access. How
Mhm.
can I make myself accessible or available as a person, in what I do, but even for those who maybe can't make it
Mhm.
to any in any way, whether it's at school or in primary care or in private practice, everyone likes books. Anyone, I think, in 2023 goes on Amazon,
Mhm.
and so I'm like, how can I make some of this important information about mental health, how kids can practice self care? There are things that they can do for themselves that's simple, that's easy to learn, to, really improve their own mental health, ways for them to learn about anxiety, what it
Mhm.
feels like to be nervous and what to do whenever you are feeling stressed. It's like, let's put all that, in easy to read books. And
Mhm.
so, again, I just kind of went to writing around the time of the pandemic and started the process, as an indie author, as far as finding my own illustrator and really just learning about, again, this process in general of being an author. And it all kind of came together and making sure it's available in libraries, at no cost, as well as, of course, on other platforms from stores to, I've had the privilege to attend like vendor events, being able to
Mhm.
set up tables and being able to educate families who may come by the table and let them know, a little about mental health and, of course, the books in general and how their child can. just learn from their own home on what it is, getting started as far as conversation within families, through reading, books. I think
Awesome.
all came together.
We need that.
Love it. Love it.
We need
Yes,
the
thank
content of the
you,
book,
thank
and we need
you.
more books with little kids that look like our babies. So thank you for that.
Yes, yes, that was a definitely a I would say a big one for me too. It's like we already don't have too many children's books that
Mm-hmm.
speak about mental health, but also books with representation,
Mm-hmm.
of us. It was huge. I think it played a really big part when it came to my vision and what I wanted to see on the cover
Mm-hmm.
and throughout the pages. I just think it's important for children to see themselves, to see a reflection of themselves in, the books that they have, that they possess. So, yeah, huge deal. Representation is definitely a big, big important one. I agree.
Love that. I love that.
We did.
Well, friend, we
A
talked a
lot.
lot about parenting. Okay. And we have a whole
Hmm.
expert on here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's time for
Yes.
some mama juice.
Because talking about
So
kids, right, and their big
what we
emotions, they
drinking
drive you to
tonight?
the mama juice, right? So,
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right.
so for
Yes,
those of you listening
yes.
for the first a portion of the episode where we bring in our favorite cocktail or mocktail version of the conversation. And each beverage, what type of alcohol is, or usually what vibe they go with when they order a drink. And Jennifer shared that she likes red wine, or like a sweet red wine. I can't remember which type of red wine, but you like red wine. Is that right, Jennifer?
Yes, I'll do a red wine for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I was thinking of like a sangria, right? It's the
Mm.
summer months. We're sending our kids back to school,
Mm-hmm.
and when we drop them off, we're picking up our sangria to finish off our summer too. At least that's what we hope, right? So Jennifer's drink is called Doctor on Call. And that's because she has provided so much perspective for us as parents, and
Mm-hmm.
she does the same for her community. So she is the doctor on call. I know when we hang up from today, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Jennifer will hear from me and or Devin, right? Um, so she is our pediatric psychology, school psychologist, psychologist on call, right? When it comes to
Nice.
raising these kids. So
Hmm.
what this drink has, as far as the cocktail, it has sweet red wine, and then it's topped with club soda. It has blackberries and mint. And it's a
Mm.
simple drink, but it fits the need of the conversation. If you are a mama to be, or you simply do not like alcohol, that is totally okay. We have a mocktail version, and that is sparkling grape juice with your club soda, mint garnish, and blackberries. And that is Dr. On Call, inspired by Dr. Jennifer Morgan.
Nice. Yes, I love it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, for Mama's Corner, if this is your first time listening, we also have a segment called Mama's Corner, and this is our opportunity to connect with our guests and our listeners further. But I think we already had Mama's Corner because we had a full therapy session. So, we're not going to go into Mama's Corner tonight because Dr. Morgan gave us a lot of suggestions on how to handle our kids with these big emotions, and we are coming up on our time as well. So, to keep you guys coming back, we're not going to go over our time, but I feel like we already had Mama's Corner within this episode. So, that's Mama's Corner.
Guess what? We
We got
found
a
the
secret.
secret. We found the secret. If you are a mama or a woman in general and you are struggling with your libido, we have found the trick. She-O has done the job. We have been more engaged intimately with our husbands. We have had all the fun. And when I tell y'all the
Mhm.
fun, we have had the fun. And guess what? We don't have to put towards so much energy because
No.
this has done the trick. And if y'all don't
Yes.
believe us, check out the reviews.
Yep.
Like,
Check the
check.
link in our bio and use code MAMA, all caps, for extra discounts. But order it today. That's all I gotta say. Order it today.
Today. And like we said, if you don't trust us, read the reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all so much for joining us at the Real Mama Pod.
Yes, every Thursday night. Y'all could be anywhere.
But you're hanging out with us.
Yes, and we love it. So, friend, where can they find you?
they can find me anywhere they like. I'm on Instagram at KendraFerg _, and I'm also on Facebook, Kendra Ferguson. Okay. What about you?
And you can reach me at DevGrace _ Instagram, TikTok,
Pinterest, Twitter,
Facebook, Twitter, all of that at The Real Mama
Pod.
Yeah, so make sure you follow us. If you want to learn more about Kendra and I, you can check out our website where we have mama merch. Hey, you can see our little sweatshirts.
Right. Yeah. We are wearing our mama merch.
Yeah, we have sweatshirts, hats, necklaces. We also have Rich Auntie merch. So you can purchase that at www.therealmamapod.com. We're so corny.
I know.